Hi guys, welcome to the Autotop.nl headquarters. Today we'll be installing the Eventuri intake on the M340i with the B58 engine. So the B58 engine in the M340i, what are the parts you're going to need to remove the original airbox? Starting out, small screwdriver, 6mm hex. You can either get this in the shape of a screwdriver or a small ratchet as you prefer. We're going to need a Torx. This has to be a T20 for removal of the sensor. We'll be starting, of course, by removing the airbox and afterwards installing the new unit. I'll be showing this in detail, step by step, so you guys can do this at home with your tools. So we're gonna start out by removing the sensor. The manual says you can also initially remove the airbox at first, but I prefer or personally like to remove the sensor first because it's a delicate and sensitive part. So you have the gray clip. We're gonna undo the gray clip. That's it. Pull it out just a little. Might be a little fiddly, and just be careful because these do tend to break loose, and that's it. So sensor disconnected. Now we're going to remove the airbox. Take your 6mm or your flathead screwdriver, whatever you prefer. I use a 6mm because it's easy and we have access to it. So we just undo the clamp. Make sure you don't undo it all the way or the clamp might become so loose that it actually jumps open. You don't want that. And now, if all goes well, you should be able to just simply, with a bit of wiggle and a bit of force, you're going to be able to remove the airbox. And there you go, disconnected. So from now on, it should just be able to lift out. This will also be done by a little bit of force. Make sure that the rubbers on the bottom of the airbox stay within the car. I'll show you in a second. On the airbox, as you can see, you have these pickup points, I would call them, and these rubbers. That's where they sit. It can happen that these rubbers will come out of the car, so always check your airbox. Make sure that the rubbers are still in the car. If not the case, put the rubber back in the car. So once the airbox is out, the next step is removing the inlet PVC or PCV pipe, I should say. It's held on by this spring clip right here, as you can see. So you're going to put your screwdriver in the spring clip and it comes out, and then you're going to give it a little tug. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so next step is removing the inlet pipe from the turbo, off the turbo basically. And we're gonna undo, and it's gonna be tough to see, this clip. Try to pry with a screwdriver this clip outwards, and it's gonna come out relatively easily. The same clip you will see on top of the turbo inlet. And same story, you're gonna pry it outwards, so it will, well, basically pop out. Go under the inlet pipe and you can feel this metal ring or clip and try to pull it towards the bottom of the car. This will undo basically the clips on the inlet pipe and you should be able to pull it off afterwards. Next step is removing the vacuum hose on the intake. There's two ribbed or edged sides to this hose. You're going to squeeze it like that, and then you're going to try to pull it off. So by one hand squeezing it and pulling, by the other holding the intake. Might require a lot of force and prying of a screwdriver. So next step is removing the whole assembly basically. So a bit of wiggling and it should just come out like that. Next thing that we're gonna do is on the airbox itself, removing the sensor. Very delicate part, so be very careful that you don't mess around, throw around the sensor, don't touch the sensor. on the sensor side of things because yeah, they are very sensitive parts. So next step, get your Torx T20 and just remove the 2 bolts and gently take out the sensor. There's usually a rubber O-ring around it, so also might require a bit of force. Very important, don't touch this side of the sensor, so make sure that it's somewhere safe. So next step is installing the air sensor. Make sure that this part is facing towards the inside of the car, so the inlet pipe sits like this in the car. So in this scenario, the QR code will face upwards. Use the 2 new screws supplied. Don't use the screws that came off the original intake, so use the screws that are supplied, also silver Torx. So next step, taking your stock intake pipe, remove the clip that we just undid. So you're gonna pull it out like that, nothing special about it. Also inside there's a rubber O-ring. Remove that O-ring and I'll show you how to install it on the new intake flange. So you can just peel it out basically. Be a bit careful, you obviously don't want to rip this apart. So there you go. Not really necessary to clean it, you can do that of course, but rubber always likes to be a bit lubricated because otherwise they tend to dry out or, as you can see, rip. So this is the new turbo flange that you will be using, and we're going to install the clip and the original rubber inside of here. So as you can see, it has 2 sides, one side where the clip sits, the other side where the pipe or the carbon pipe will eventually meet the turbo. And we're going to install the rubber from this side. It's very important to notice that the rubber has 2 sides on it. It has a smooth side on it and a side, as you can see already here, the oil sitting in it, an edged side to it. And it's important that this is installed in the right orientation. You can see this in the manual also, but I'll show you just to clarify. So we're going to install it from the side where the clip sits. So we're going to face it down. And then the smooth side faces towards the turbo. And you're just gonna gently press it in. It's gonna be a bit fiddly, but you will get it. And that's it. There it sits. Same for the clip. Installing the clip, you have these flat spots in the flange, and that's where basically these hooks will meet with the flange. So we're gonna make sure that it sits around the clip like that, and then you'll see this part will meet here. So when we push it all the way, you can see it interlocks. We're gonna go for another step, and that's it. So that's how it will sit. This way you can see will lock this ring in place, but when installing, of course, this needs to be removed just a little bit. So make sure that the ring either is all the way off or partially off so that you can still install it. Next part is joining the silicone together with the flange. So it's nothing more than just pressing it together. It sits like that. Make sure that you put the clamp over and tighten the clamp. This clamp is a size different from what is originally on the car. So on the car you use a 6mm, for the Eventuri you use a 7mm. So next step, installing the air filter on the intake pipe and the flange. So flange just basically goes over the pipe like that, nothing special about it. And then the next step is putting the filter on. This will also require a bit of force, and you're going to have to tighten the clamp right here. And then what we'll be doing is the intake pipe will go in the housing. After you push the intake and the air filter into the air box, you're going to put the locking ring into place. The locking ring has a flat bottom which faces the bottom where the ducting sits. You just align the holes nice and center, and you put in the bolts with washers, very important. and you tighten them. Also to keep in mind, the pipe can still move, so the orientation at this point is not important yet. So next step is installing the Eventuri intake flange basically. We're gonna put that on the turbo. As you can see, I've pulled the clip out. You can either do it like this, or you can completely remove the clip if you would like to. And then we're gonna shove it onto the turbo and make sure that the clip goes back on. So we're gonna push it onto the turbo, and there it goes. You can already hear the clip clicking in. Give it a once more a press, and that's it. You should be able to rotate it. You shouldn't be able to pull it off. So if it's stuck there and you can rotate it, that's fine. That should be it. So the combination of the Eventuri carbon intake together with the downpipe will create a better flow of the overall intake and exhaust system. Colder air, freer flowing through the turbo due to the downpipe is a combination that will create a lot more power and better overall response. This whole setup is plug and play. So as you can see, if you follow the instruction videos, you can do this all by yourself. No coding, no tuning, no programming, just plug and play. So next step is installing the airbox back into the car. Important to note, there's two ducts on the airbox. Basically the main duct and a secondary duct, and I will show you where they go. So the secondary smaller duct sits right in this area within the car. So make sure that you align it right there. The main duct, the bigger one, as shown right here, sits on this plastic duct. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna angle the airbox a bit so that it will go in this duct. This can be a bit tricky, so don't try to force it, just be nice and gentle with it and it eventually will go in. If you want to be careful obviously, because this is carbon, it can scratch, so make sure that sharp edges like here for example, put just a rag in between it so you don't scratch your new airbox.